There we go. I think everything's all set. And yeah, looks solid. Hey guys, hey everybody, how we doing? Howdy Xavier. Trying to avoid spoilers at this point for Night Rain. Yeah, I can imagine. When does it officially come out again? The 30th, right? So it comes out this Friday, I'm pretty sure. I thought we were gonna finish the DS1 lore through Loki. The lore play will hopefully be continuing tomorrow. We'll see. Again, just gotta make sure that everything is perfectly arranged, but ideally we're gonna do hopefully the last one tomorrow so we can have that all wrapped up. We will see, we'll see. Very, 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 very tight schedule. And the question's gonna be Night Rain, playing it on the 30th. There's so many things I want to do, because I'm probably going to want to make a separate Steam account for that and stuff, especially if I want to play online with you guys and things like that. So, that's going to be... You know? That, or I will just get it for PS5 and I'll buy it separately on PC when it comes to the modding and stuff. Mate's the 28th on PC. At 5... Oh! I haven't been paying attention to the specific date, so I thought it was all on the 30th or something, as I recall. That was the really end of the month. Oh, damn, that was a cool pic about the DS Global. Oh, yeah. I did, yeah, I made that for... It's a nice little reference. I have something similar to this in my walls. I thought, yeah, you know, I can probably recreate this a little better, right? You could maybe have some arguments about the lower world here. Is it actually, global, or is it just, like, specific areas like Lordran, then moves some of it to Drangleic, then some of it to Lothric, arguably, right? You make a case for that. PC is earlier. Ah. I might be on the same, might be the same for me then. No, yeah, I'm very happy with this though, because I think it captures the simplified essence of what I'm talking about with the cosmology. Beautiful art. Why, thank you. I am an artiste. Though I will admit, most of this is just using shapes on paint, so it's nothing complicated. I wasn't gonna hand draw on that with the amount of time I wanted to put in for it. I was like, no, let's just make this done in like 5 minutes. Still though, I'm very, very much happy with the astrologist work. It came out, it's there. It's a little bit expand on stuff I talk about in Abyssal Archive, with some of the stuff that Dark Souls 2 offers to the subject. Wow, these guys are truly everywhere. I got to generally just enjoy, you know, wrapping up DS2 for the website and stuff like that. And yeah, currently all the stuff I'm doing for the Phantoms and things, like, it's going by real quick. I'm also trying to do some stuff for Meth for the Bloodborne wiki, so that's sort of taking up a bit of my time as well. So kind of splitting things up. Just don't make a tapestry. I actually had a blanket once that was kind of like this, and sort of like the general idea. It was a lot more colorful though. Like there were a bunch of like it was like a bunch of fish weaved together or whatever, like in a rainbow assortment of colors. So not really rainbow even. It was. But there was like a little bit of blues and greens, but it was predominantly like reds and pinks and yellows. It was a really beautiful thing. DS Planet is a water planet. We should... Won't we just name it like our water planet? Honestly, that's something I feel like I could have probably done. I could have probably included oceans and stuff here, or at least something to that. But I think the simplified version is fine for the purposes of being like, you got the surface under the sky. Then below that is the lower world. Then below the lower world is the first flame, right? So it's the thing at the center, and then that's the responsible for, like, essentially the atmosphere. It's actually rather funny when you think about it. You kind of have not necessarily a molten core, but you do have a fiery core to the world in a, you know, in a cosmogony sense, you know? And then you have the sky and everything, and then at some point we enter outer space territory, which in the case of Dark Souls, I would argue, seems to be kind of like Bloodborne in that there's a body of water out there, right? Like, it seems like the idea is that water and stuff is a derivative of fog, to some extent, at least. And in that case, um, outside of like the atmosphere and stuff, that body of water, or that fog has become this body of water that encapsulates the world. And because that body of water encapsulates the world, it ends up embodying it ends up using its qualities of sort of the abstract that we see in fog, right? Like the abstract, the imaginary, the more cerebral and stuff, the non-physical, as it were, right? So when it captures something physical like rock and flame in there, that body of water then thus seems to almost create like a reflection, which we perceive as the sun and moon, right? The sun being the ball of fire, the moon being a ball of rock, which reflects some of the sun's light to create moonlight, which would be representative of the effects of fire as it is filtered through rock. Which explains a lot about why like blue sorceries and stuff related to sea's moonlight magic ends up being so prevalent, even for non-Seath related schools and stuff like that. Anyway, the point was just to kind of highlight, sort of this interesting, this is like deep into the weeds kind of lore discussion we have here, right? And it's very curious to see on like, how is this universe arranged? Why is it arranged that way? How does that necessarily work? As we can see, at least Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3 doubles down on it, how very much the bodies that we perceive on there can be, can change and be affected by local phenomenon, right? A bit of a weird question, but when you die in Dark Souls, do you get yeeted out of existence and just go, oh no, that's not a weird question at all. No afterlife or anything. In Dark Souls, when you, we're talking about, like, not just death, right? When it comes to, Dark Souls, when you die, that's just it. You die. Your body's there, your soul's still there. Nothing happens to you, because you are your soul, effectively, right? The soul is the source of your life. So, when in the context of Dark Souls, dying just means that your, body is no longer, the soul is no longer able to operate the body. Its will is, either given up on operating the form by that point, or it is, physically unable to for one reason or another, right? And then as a result of that, the soul seems to, outside of like rare exceptions where the soul is particularly, large and powerful, so it has an exceptionally strong will behind it, like say the Great Ones in Dark Souls 2. Generally speaking, your soul just kind of sits there doing nothing with the dead body, right? And both of you start fading away, right? Obviously, the body rots, and over, from what we can tell, a longer period of time, the soul will fade away, right? Like a flame. It, just kind of starts burning out eventually, right? It's not feeding itself. Like, that's the point of the living body, right? Like, when you eat, you are, like, say, if I eat, in the context of Dark Souls, when I'm eating, say, I don't know, a pheasant, right? When I'm eating that pheasant, that flesh has souls that are flowing through it via the blood, because the blood is the medium for the soul, right? And the soul, which is mostly located in the heart, though it also seems to have a large allocation in the brain, but it's mostly through the heart and gets pumped via blood through the entire flesh body, right? Like, that's the expression of life into rock to create flesh and all those little organs and all the things that will make your body functional, right? But when those things, when you eat the pheasant, you're eating that flesh and the soul's inherent in that flesh, and then your body assimilates that eventually into your own soul, right? Like we see with Aldrich, right? He devours Gwendolyn, obviously as like a slime monstrosity thing, but it's still the same basic principle. He takes Gwendolyn body and soul, and the soul eventually gets assimilated into Aldrich's soul, where it is also broken down and turned. We see something similar with Smough, right? When Smough or Ornstein take the souls of the other after they've fallen, and then directly absorbs them into their body completely unfiltered, and results in radical changes based on the qualities of the individual, right? So yeah, there's no afterlife in Dark Souls. There may be religions or something in Dark Souls where some pagan faiths will believe in an afterlife, but there's no afterlife as we traditionally conceive it. Your afterlife is to be reanimated by Nito, and you'll essentially get a quote-unquote, not really a second life, but a second death life, right? You become one of the dead, which I like to coin as the living dead, so you don't get confused with the, you know, the other dead, where you're just a corpse. Loki, did you see the Dark Souls skins in Night Rain? They added a helm to the Dragon Knight One set. Oh, cool. Cool, cool, cool. Alright, I want to move this thing. Let me see if I can. Yeah, let me move this thing. There we go, so you guys can at least see a little bit more of my character. There we go. Hey, Nicolino, how you doing? There we go. Yeah, so in the context of Dark Souls, like, yeah, it's a very, I don't want to say grounded per se, but it's very much a world that's concerned with the terrestrial. It's not like Elden Ring and stuff where there are all these different planes of existence with spirits and souls and ghosts and all this different stuff that can be hard to parse through and seems to allude to separate dimensions for different classes of beings beyond just your traditional flesh and blood life, right? That is something that you don't really see in Dark Souls. You don't see that really in Demon Souls. It might exist in Demon Souls because we don't really know where God seems to be transcendent in Demon Souls. Why are we getting this? Hello? Oh, it must be my must be the controller. Must be unplugging a little or something. Yeah, I need to get that fixed. Because that's gonna be a problem if I play on PC with Night Rain. Yeah, I might actually get the PS5 version to play. Yeah. And then I'll get the PC version for private use. That might be how I'm gonna handle it. Alright. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that one tonight and tomorrow. Which version of Night Rain do I want to play? Because they don't have crossplay, right? So that's gonna suck. That's really gonna suck in terms of playing with you guys and stuff if you guys don't have the same system, right? Gosh. It's so crazy to me because the trailer has one of these cities here, so it's gonna be so nice if you actually explore that and see what it's all about. Well, which one you get will factor in what I plan. Oh, thanks, Xavier. I'm gonna have to keep that in mind too. Maybe I should do a poll on the Discord, see how many people are playing on one or the other, right? Because if people really want me to just play on PC to play with them, then I really will consider just making a new Steam account just for, like, I guess I should have done this a long time ago, but just make a Loki account for us to all play on and stuff. Not like anyone wants to play with. What are you talking about? You'll have random matchmaking. What could possibly go wrong? Just getting paired with a bunch of noobs. They'll probably be better than me. That guy was annoying me, just existing. I'll be on PS5. Ah, damn. Yeah, there might be a split. If it's gonna be something where like a bunch of people are gonna be playing on different systems and stuff, then yeah, I don't know. I might just kind of do PS5, and then like I said, I'll do PC for private. Like a shot of that. A little bit lower. There we go. Oh my god. Do you have DualSense or something? I don't know what DualSense is. You'll have to clarify what that means, Nobre, because I have no idea what all the different Sony things are. Is that supposed to be like the Rumble feature or something? I don't know. There we go. I meant not randoms. Okay, good, good, good. As long as you're not going to be lonely. I'd hate if you decide you're going to solo the entire Night Rain because you can't play with us. You could also family share with your OG account so that you have the same games on both. For Steam, you mean? I guess I don't know. Again, mostly it's just for personal privacy and stuff, and privacy again, especially after what happened recently with what's it called, Inscription. I have to be more mindful of like games and stuff, accidentally roping people who have certainly not consented to have being in any public forum. I would really hate to cause them headaches because of the stuff that I do, Because, there's always going to be some little shit out there that's going to cause trouble for people. And man, I think, I've been thinking about, like, which class I want to do, and I haven't seen a lot of people talking about the Recluse. So I feel like I might play her as, like, my main. We'll see if I'm going to hate the gameplay or something, and that's why people don't really talk about her. But I feel like I want to really kind of try her out and just see, because she seems like she has a fun little mage gimmick. Mm-hmm. So how are we feeling about the new Eternal City thing that we're seeing in the trailer? I'm personally really happy about this because we haven't seen it since like the very early trailers where we got a close up and it was real hard to see like if it was gonna be one of those random areas you go to or something. But it looks like no, they made an entire like Leyndell sized capital type thing. I'd like to play with people I know and communicate socially instead of randoms. I agree. It's just better if you have someone that you kind of know and you can kind of like trust to get on a call with and be able to like coordinate. Plus, we could do a lot of stuff through the Discord server with passwords and things. So that way, like, everybody can, like, be on the same page and join. Thing to know is Recluse does have an equal faith stat. Oh, so you can play her with some faith weapons, too. That's neat. Any clue on what the Night King is? No, I have no idea what's going on. Aren't all the bosses called Night Lords? Right? And then there's supposed to be, like, probably a secret boss at the end that's going to be, like, the King of the Kings or something like that. May as well just go up here and kill these people since I'm killing guys. Actually, no. Let's let these guys live. They're cool. Where are those basilisks? I need to be an exterminator while I wait. Noctlateo is really big and cool. People have already shared gameplay and all of it. Oh, cool. It's gonna be great to experience that for myself. Actually did implement a lobby system, apparently. Good. Yeah. Again, I don't know how if this is gonna be a giant flop for From, or it's gonna be actually pretty, have a decent lifeline to it. I'm actually curious what the post-launch support is gonna look like as well, because I can't imagine they're just gonna like release it all and then not do anything to keep engagement alive after that. Especially, I'm sure there's at least gonna have to be some balancing patches or something. Some are also called Creature of Night or Beast of Night. Ah. So are they not called Night Lords, or are they called Night Lords but they have separate names? I guess my question is what are we gonna learn about like what Night Lords are, right? Like what is a King of the Night, How do we classify that? But yeah, going back to the whole Eternal City Nox thing. There are two options that like immediately jump to me. Either one, depending on how the story is going to be on like the timeline divergence or whatever for this spin-off. It could be like the Nox building their own new Eternal City in the Night Realm because they're like, we're finally at the realm of our Night Lord, yay! Right? Or something to that effect. Or it's an actual city that existed in the actual base game and for whatever reason either was destroyed and has been recreated here. Oh my god, this controller. There's already DLC on the way announcing the bonuses of Deluxe Edition. Okay, good to know. Is it gonna be paid DLC? Then that's probably just gonna be skins and stuff then. Because I can't imagine them selling new maps or whatever, because, that would just be scummy. probably balance single player and add proper duo support. Is single player just balanced that bad? Like, I imagine it would be. I can't imagine that if it was a game that was balanced around 3 people, that they could make one person, like, anywhere near, like, manageable. I feel like it would just be too much shit happening because, you know, that's what the boss have to do to deal with 3 people. And it's just gonna be overwhelming for one person. There's actually new bosses and classes? Oh! But new bosses? Is that... If it's for the deluxe edition, is it something you have to pay for, then? Again, I don't know how I feel about that. Classes, I could see. I could totally justify making someone have to, like, pay, like, shell out $5 for, like, a new class option, right? I'm not saying it's ideal, but I can totally see the justification of, you know, we'll give you free new bosses, free new maps or whatever, but we're not going to give you any new classes to actually play with or whatever, right? That's something that you can watch other people play and then wish that you actually had that to play for yourself. Sarah, die with the rest. Apparently people don't recommend doing it at all. Ooh, yeah, that sounds bad. That sounds real bad. Oh, there you are. You just get the DLC with the deluxe edition. You can get it separately. Oh, I get it. So they're putting... Okay, that's how they're doing it. Oh, okay. So it's like a pre-order thing. Okay. Yeah, the controller's being really finicky today, which tells me, oh, I need to find a solution before the game launches because I don't want to do... It's gonna suck if this happens in the middle of a run. So yeah, I think PS5 might be the one I go with just to avoid controller problems. And then, like, I'll probably get this game separately for Steam. We'll do it for, like, private streams and stuff. Whatever. Probably do single player, but, do probably either... Hopefully the camera mod will have a disable AI feature, or the... Or, you know, we'll be able to mod it so that way it's like, okay, take away the time limits or whatever, right? On everything, and then allow it so that way you can, you know, I don't know, to add God mode or whatever so you don't die. Like that type of thing. There we go. Oh, I see. It's getting the DLC in advance and then waiting. I don't know. Alright, what about you guys? Oh, they're not coming down. It's fine. Alright, I think I've had enough showing off the Dark Souls planet, so we're gonna close that. Overall, I'm feeling... What's the word? I'm feeling, like, tempered excitement, right? Like, I'm not, like, full through, oh my god, this is gonna be amazing, but, like, oh, this will be a fun little thing. Like I said, though, I've always kind of just accepted from the start. It's like, okay, we're in the sellout era of FromSoft. Like, we've hit that point in the company's history. We better just get used to this, right? We're going down the Bethesda pipeline. Ah! I could just walk on there. Oh, no. No, but so from what I've seen so far, there's definitely a lot of interesting stuff on the lore side, though, to chew into, so that's going to be nice. I'm just curious how in-depth it's actually going to be. Like, how in-depth are they going to go with boss lore? Or is it going to be one of those things where, like, we're going to get, like, a name, a pithy description, and then that's going to be it? We're going to hear nothing else about any of these guys. Because there's, like, a big Centaur Man among them, right? Like, I'd want to know more about Centaur Man, and what's his deal, where he fits in the timeline. Yeah, every time I angle this thing now, it's the wire is... It's just slipping out ever so slightly. God, I hate it. I love... Hello? Okay, sure, whatever that lag thing was. Elden Ring movie, by the way, also seeks to expand the ER universe. I mean, the movie's existence is gonna expand the ER universe, right? Like, you could say the same thing about Night Rain. The question is, by how much? Is it anything meaningful? Or are we, like, retreading old ground and we're just going to be expanding upon, like, I don't know, the lead up to the Shattering or something, right? I'm also curious how much Miyazaki or Martin are going to be involved to give, like, a veto or something. Like, are they going to be like, no, you can't do that because that, like, breaks, quote-unquote, the canon, or that defies something that I already kind of, like, added to the canon in my game? Or is it going to be something kind of like, you know, we kind of gotta, like, compromise and let them do their own thing. So if it kind of, you know, slightly retcons something, that's fine, right? I'm curious how strictly there's going to be an expectation of adherence. Bit of a sad question. Do you think this can lead to the slow death of From Software if this game isn't a bigger? No, not at all. Not even close. The whole reason they're doing this is because they have so much money from Elden Ring that they can afford to spend on these experimental little, side projects, right? Like, this is Miyazaki planning for the future. So whether this passes or fails, right? It's a good learning experience for From. So no. You could argue that they've maybe overextended what the reputational damage they could take from this, right? Because they do this and then they announce Dustblood right after. So it's like, oh, From Software is now going away from their roots and are just, you know, trying to cash in on the online multiplayer, you know, Fortnite trend, right? There's definitely that argument to be had. There's definitely, you know, it's definitely a little bit of that, but I don't think I would go so far as to say, oh, no, this is just them being greedy. I think it's very much them recognizing Elden Ring was more successful than they expected. Miyazaki needs to think about the future because after working on Elden Ring, he knows that there's only so many projects he's going to be able to work on while also running the company and while also, what's the word? While also, you know, probably preparing for his retirement within the next, I would say, you know, probably not a decade, but definitely in like 2 decades, maybe, right? And he's got to think about that. How many projects that I want to cover am I going to do? What other projects am I going to be able to lead before I have to step down or step out or let someone else take over or take the lead? And how am I going to have the company be able to still run when I'm gone, right? That's what is on his mind right now, is he's thinking long-term legacy. And for that purpose, he realizes the obvious. He needs to start training new blood and new talent who are going to be able to keep From Software's, you know, From Software, you know, making good games and profitable games, you know, into the future. So they have the capital to spare. So yes, of course they're gonna go through and like, okay, you know, Ishizaki, okay, there, you can go and like, you know, do your own little thing. It's fine. You have this idea you want to do for an online multiplayer. That's good. We have our own idea of what we can do with online multiplayer as well for Dustbloods or whatever. So we'll let you kind of like prototype this and really give us an idea. Like you just kind of go balls to the wall on your idea. Here's a small budget. It's relatively small, so it's got a good chance of making its return on investment. So, like, you don't have to really worry too hard. Just make something, like, you don't have to worry about, like, you know, reusing assets or whatever. Oh, you want to use the Dark Souls 1 bosses? Okay, cool, I give my approval. Oh, you want to use Dark Souls 2 bosses? Okay, talk to Tanimura. Oh, he says that it's okay? Okay, cool, then you can go forward, yada, 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 right? So I think, I have no fears for, like, From Software's, like, bottom line. This could be a reputational hit. This could do damage to Elden Ring and Dark Souls as brands, depending on how Night Rain is received. And how it's going to be received regardless of however popular it ends up being, because there's always going to be just the stain of why is Dark Souls and Elden Ring brands being mixed for such obviously arbitrary and cynical reasons, and why is From Software like indulging in like this isn't the thing they're good for. They're supposed to be one of the good ones who, like, you know, do solid non-scummy you know, single player experiences, right? Like, no one's ever complained about a From Software DLC in like Bloodborne, Dark Souls, right? Like, they basically just do expansions, right? They don't try to like nickel and dime you for like every little thing, right? Like, again, that was one of the big things with Armored Core, was how it's like, oh my god, I have all these parts and all these colors and textures and options, and I don't have to pay a microtransaction for it. Like, it's just part of the complete package of the game. And, like, that's what From Software is risking, right? Is them being looked at as, like, okay, they're, like, selling their soul to the corporatist devil. Again, I understand those concerns. I don't necessarily share them. I just think that this is the selling out phase of From Software, where they are going to try to They're gonna strike while the iron is hot on Elden Ring. I completely foresaw there being like a Hollywood movie deal thing. Like the only surprise for me is the fact that the Hollywood movie came after the spin-off thing. I thought the random small game spin-offs was gonna be much later in the timeline, I must admit. I was not expecting we would get here so soon. Oh. But hey, it is what it is. Hey Amelia, welcome to the chat. Ah! This is what I get for not looking! I work for streamers. Do you like to see my work? Depends on what your work is, Amelia. I mean, I'm looking for editors and stuff for this, for the near future, potentially. So, I mean, if that's something that you're talking about that you do work for streamers, then I'm not going to say no to automatically. But, like, I'd recommend you go to the link in the description to the website. If you have something that you're actually offering that is of any value to me and to my channel, that you contact me through there. I do not want to make any like public negotiation here during an actual live stream. Yes, I do not want to talk over Discord or anything like that. Please just send me an email through my website contacts. Yeah, it won't be the end of the world no matter what. The worst thing is that people will say like, okay, From Software came out with a flop. It's probably gonna be like their first like flop, even worse than Dark Souls 2. Because Dark Souls 2 at its worst, even if you want to consider it a flop, like as far as critically, it's at worst divisive, heavily divisive, right? It's still, you know, it's still gonna probably sell. Dark Souls 2 is probably gonna sell more still than Night Rain, I imagine. Because I just don't think Night Rain has a lot of crossover potential. I think there's a lot of people who are like, I really love Elden Ring, and I really love live service online action games. I just don't think there's so much crossover that's a huge audience. I think generally the opinion is people look at Elden Ring, they're kind of like, this is kind of weird for like an Elden Ring game. I think that's the general sentiment. And that's because I think lost more of those souls. What do you think comes after this experimental phase? I think depending on how well Duskblood's does, because again, obviously, it becomes clear now that Night Rain was very much a sort of prototype project to help see the reception and get feedback on Duskbloods, right? They probably expect that Night Rain's going to be able to make its return on investment, so it'll at least break even relatively easily, right, at worst. And then, if there's a lot of problems, they'll be able to take that feedback and implement it for the final iteration on Duskblood, because I imagine Duskbloods is currently in, like, alpha, essentially, right? Like, they're still, like, they probably got a lot of stuff polished up for trailers and things like that, but they still don't have, like, all the specifics and hammered down beyond, like, you know, the core concepts they want to do for Duskbloods. And they need to know, okay, what is all the stuff that, Night Rain's gonna get criticized for, and how are we going to react to that? Say specifically that's not live service. So are they, then what's the additional of the DLC and stuff that they're doing there? I'm pretty sure that would still fall under live service, technically. Which is weird. I think this is definitely a game that would benefit at least some active support for a while. Yeah, I assume that's what the whole point of the DLC stuff they're doing is added, right? They gotta keep on, you know, giving updates and additions. At least for 6 months, I would think. It doesn't have to be forever, but... I guess when you think of live service, you think of, like, in perpetuity, and that's what FromSoft is saying. It's like, no, there's going to be a time limit on this. They're not going to, like, constantly have a skeleton crew working on this title. I guess that's probably what they mean by that. No, yeah, I think, worst case scenario, this game is going to, flop with people, at least critically. I don't know about commercially. But, and it's going to be one of those things that will be, like, a slight stain on From Software, but it's fine. They'll get through it. People will forget about it once they come out with their next big hit, right? I don't think it's going to foretell any, like, horrible future for the company. I don't think we have to worry about that. DLC like Dark Souls and ER. Yeah, that would be my big question, is if the... I guess it's going to depend on what exactly the DLC is. Because if they just plan to add, like, a few new classes and bosses, and then they're done, Not gonna do anything with map variety or anything like that. Then yeah, I don't think this game's gonna have a lot of longevity. Very much feels like, okay, get what they can and then get out. Oh, it's broken. Oh well. I didn't want to go back down anyway. Actually, that's a lie, I did. That's a lie. Yeah. So, did you guys say we had names for bosses and stuff already? Like, we know, like, Margit's gonna be called, like, Fel Omen or something like that, right? Or Veil... are they gonna call him Veil Monarch? I don't think so. I don't think they'll reference Morgoth that specifically. I'm also, again, still curious if the final item descriptions are going to be the same as in Elden Ring, or if they're actually going to update them. I assume they will, but you never know. It's FromSoft. Then be like, we want to avoid spoilers, leaves all the spoilers in the item description still. I think Dustbloods is going to be affected by Night Rain anyway. Being co-developed, it'll be similar to how none of DS2's improvements ain't until Bloodborne, but we're adding DS3. I don't know about that, because you're ignoring the fact that DS2 and Bloodborne came out around the same time. That's not the case with Duskbloods. There's still a lot of time for them to continue adding stuff that they find in Night Rain to Duskbloods. And there's a lot more overlap just by the virtue of online. Like, if they find that there are online features that are missing from Night Rain that are being heavily requested for, or there are a lot of specific complaints that they're seeing for Night Rain that would overlap with Duskbloods, I very much think that they're going to be receptive to that and be including it. I don't think it's an accident. Godric is Grafted Monarch? That's because it's not Godric, it's actually God of War. No, but that makes sense, because they're probably... I wouldn't be surprised if they're translating Shard, quote-unquote, Bearer as Monarch there. I like to translate it as Ruler, but you can also... Monarch works as well. But who knows, maybe they're actually using, like, King or something. Fel Omen and Network Test? Yeah, that's what I would have thought. It's gonna be so funny if they, like... if Radagon actually gets added as, like, a secret boss or something. And they just call him, like, I don't know, you know, Broken Consort or something. I don't think they're gonna do it. Let's say Elden Ring movie is epic and makes a lot of money. I mean, those are not, I mean, those don't, neither need to be true at once, you know? Do you think they will ever do a Dark Souls or Bloodborne adaptation, or will FromSoft say no to that? Do I think it's possible? Sure. Do I think FromSoft would be interested? No, because I don't think there's the... Again, Elden Ring is uniquely popular. Not even Dark Souls is as popular as Elden Ring, which is crazy to think about, considering how much of a cultural milestone Dark Souls was in the video game community. Like, Elden Ring has surpassed that by far. I never would have imagined that would have happened, right? But so it did. So, like, generally speaking, no. I just don't think... I don't think there's going to be any interest in adapting anything other than Elden Ring. If Elden Ring is so popular, I think they're just going to make another Elden Ring movie. That's just how I feel. I just don't see any potential for them to be like, you know what? Let's go back to those less popular IPs, right? DS2 came out a full year before BB, and Duskbloods is coming out next year, maybe around mid or earlier. Maybe then. Maybe. I think the bigger issue with DS2 was also probably the engine, but I guess we'll see. I'm a lot more willing to bet that Dark Souls, that Night Rain's gonna tie into Duskbloods, as far as at least feedback is concerned, that they're gonna listen. I think it would definitely be silly of them not to. If it comes to, like, specific gameplay stuff or whatever, like, I don't know, like, they've got, like, different mechanics or something, then sure, yeah, I don't think there's gonna be overlap there. But I think some of the broader stuff and the more generic things that they may get criticism for sure, I think it's going to play in. Hello there, sir. I'm pretty sure if I kill you, you're never going to come back, so let's not do that. I was tempted. I felt the temptation. Here, let's have a nice look at the beautiful scenery. Is this how content creators for YouTube get their B-roll? Like they just like kind of like do stuff like this, hand it off to the editor. If so, I'm gonna probably be doing a lot of that in the future. For oh my, this is ooh. Well, cut! You didn't see anything! Also, the fading in of lights and stuff, that's kind of annoying. Also, like, this door's not properly loaded in. Like, goodness me, Elden Ring. Hide your seams better. I actually really like that shot for some reason. I don't know why, because the door thing is all screwed up, but, like, I like everything else about the shot. Yeah, in my opinion, it's gonna be probably, it's gonna probably be something like, Night Rain's obviously gonna come out. The Elden Ring movie will be something for years down the line, so who knows? It could be Duskbloods will be the new craze by the time that Elden Ring movie comes out, but the IP's still gonna be attract a lot of people. If the Elden Ring movie is good, obviously, it's gonna be huge, and they're gonna keep on making more, probably. Who knows? Maybe they'll even greenlight TV shows or some jazz. If it gets received poorly, if it's thought to be like really bad, it doesn't really fit with it doesn't really kind of fit with the world and the story of the games. It feels like it's pandering too much to one thing or the other. It feels too Americanized or something like that, right? Like it feels like they're trying to make, you know, it's like what Demon Souls, what Bluepoint did to Demon Souls remake, right? You know, kind of like made it feel like, oh yeah, we're gonna turn Demon Souls into a Hollywood blockbuster. It's like, no, right? It starts feeling like it loses some of that essence, and like that ends up like affecting it poorly. That could be a problem. The problem is, I feel like just the fact that it's like an Elden Ring movie is gonna get so many butts into theaters on day one. I don't know if that's gonna affect its box office returns that much. Because I feel like anyone who wants to see an Elden Ring movie is gonna see the Elden Ring movie on the opening weekend, right? Go try and get some DLC boss shots. I'm not. I mean, I guess, but like, what bosses do I really want to get shots of right now? I have not been thinking about Elden Ring or analysis stuff because of all the focus on DS2 and stuff. So I don't even know where I'd wanna where I'd want to get shots next. Yeah, I'd have to think about that one. Yeah, I could go on my other character and like maybe get more shots of what's her face over here. Oh my. Surely this looks decent. Just ignore everything else below the area you're looking from. It's just amazing seeing how all the little tricks they do, you know? Dancing Lion. Ooh, you know, that wouldn't be a bad one. That's true. Problem is I'm not going to type out Horn Scent anytime soon, so it would definitely be, like, shots for the future type thing. No, but yeah, I don't think Elden Ring... I think the problem with Elden Ring films is going to be, depending on... I guess it depends on how expensive it is. If it's a really expensive film and it doesn't do, like, that well after its opening weekend, maybe they won't do any more. But I don't know. I feel like just the fact that it's like, oh, this is a really big, like, From Software IP that they normally don't do. Like, obviously, it's the first time that From Software is ever going to have, like, a Hollywood movie done. It's got Martin's name attached, so it's going to have the whole, you know, from the creator of Game of Thrones, right? So you have that going for it. You have a lot of people are going to be like really enthused about just the idea of like, oh, you know, from Elden Ring, you know, those games with like that really esoteric lore or whatever. Oh, maybe we can finally figure out what's going on, right? So they're going to just go in and see like, oh, I'm finally going to actually learn what the real story is, right? And again, this is going to then depend on, okay, what story are they actually telling? Is it going to be like, are they going to try to like tell a corner of the lore that's going to give the writers the most freedom to do whatever they want without stepping on the toes of Miyazaki and Martin the most, right? They're obviously still going to have to make it comport with the base game, ideally. And hopefully there's going to be at least some... Again, I don't know how strict... It's going to be curious seeing how strict they're going to be on like making sure it's lore accurate, but it would be very interesting if... It'd be very interesting if they just like let them roost and be like, okay, like you guys like do it yourself and try to self-regulate so it stays accurate, because you know Hollywood has a habit of not doing that. You know, you're very lucky if you have a writer and director who actually cares about it. You know, keeping the integrity of the original IP. So you can only hope. I heard good things about this director though, so who knows? It's crazy to me thinking of Night Rain because we're going to go to this city and stuff. If again, I can see two options. Either it is the city that originally existed on the surface, right, where the Nox were originally located and then got destroyed, and then they were forced underground. It's very obvious that the city wasn't designed to be an underground one like the other. Like, you go to Noctella or something, right, and you're like, yeah, this looks like this was built underground, right? With the way that it's all integrated into the ceiling, quote unquote, right? And everything. Same thing with Nocron to a lesser extent, right? Because Nocron's more so like on like a ridge. Nameless Eternal City is probably the closest comparison, just because, you know, the cavern it's in is so big that it just kind of is like, yeah, it's basically just a city in this open cavern underground, right? Like, there's not much to add there. Right? Mm-hmm. But, like, the options I see are either, A, there's some other location where this had to be located underground if it's something like Nameless Eternal City, and I don't see any realistic place for it to be at, right? So either A, it's gonna be something like, because Limveld is supposed to be like kind of based on Limgrave, right? Do I have that right? I don't know if it's ever confirmed if Limveld is just like weird distorted Limgrave or not, or if it's technically supposed to be its own continent with just pieces of the Lands Between thrown on it, but it's at least got some similarities, right? So I could see it as being like, oh no, this was, like, I don't know, it was what was located here, where Agio Lake is now, or something like that, right? I could totally see something like that being revealed. Right? Yeah, I'd have a hard time finding another spot where you can put it besides, like, around here-ish, you know? But, like, either it's going to be like, oh, an old surface city of the Nox, or Nox who end up in Limveld and then build a new city in Limveld on the surface with big giant rampart walls and all that. I don't know. I find that going to be very interesting depending on which way we go about it and what it could mean for the larger lore about the Nox. Nameless also does that feature present in the other two. No dams, no wells, no throne, and yes, Limveld is literally Limgrave. Is it actually like one-to-one the same map with just like, you know, the different pieces thrown on top of it? Yeah, we don't get any lifts or anything, unfortunately, here. We got a little bit of nothing really damming, but also you have to, I will admit there's no real reason to have dams here, right? Because you're at literally the mouth here. Like, maybe you could argue maybe you could put some stuff here to regulate it, kind of like what Noctella does. That'd be the closest thing I can think of. As we can see, they're not doing well with the flood control right now. Yeah, this is probably the closest you get to a traditional city with the Eternal Cities, for sure. Like, none of the other capitals have, like, just, like, buildings allowed to just be, like, buildings spread out around an expanse like this. With open air, almost. After Dustbloods, will they just make new IP using the same formula they have been using, just updated? Will they learn, or something else? Again, I'm not Miyazaki, and I'm not From Software, so I don't know what's going through all their heads. But I obviously, if they think that like the online thing is working, like they struck on gold, and they have an idea that they can continue refining it and making more. Obviously, they're going to do more. I don't think they're just like doing this just so they can not add it to their tool belt of different game genres they can try. I would really like to see From Software maybe try out horror again, because it's been a while since they've come out with a horror game. So I would love to see them kind of like maybe tackle that genre again, see if they have it. Now maybe Miyazaki or whoever doesn't feel confident that they can tell a really compelling horror narrative, because you also have to account for atmosphere and stuff like that. You know, different kind of atmosphere from what we get in like Elden Ring or Souls or something. And maybe he doesn't feel like he can capture that, which I could understand, right? But maybe you can find someone there who would like, who's like a horror aficionado and is gonna be like really into like at least trying it out. But again, that's me being biased because I just love horror. Yes, Limveld is the exact geography of the middle section of Limgrave. Okay, so it's like specifically... So it's specifically like this. I thought Limveld was bigger, though, than Limgrave. Am I wrong? Or is it like... I would not say exact. Okay, so it's not... I would say 80% exact. I made a Reddit post about it. There's still noticeable differences, but still very much the same place. I'm gonna have to look at that post then, Sub-Zero. Because I'd love to see the comparison. Yeah, I guess the final lore will clarify it, because my assumption is it's going to be something where, like, different parts of the lands between are either taken and they're being smashed together, like, through, like, timey-wimey space shenanigans, or it's, like, some kind of, like, you know... it's similar to Bloodborne, where it's going to be, like, a simulation, but not really simulation theory type idea, where, like, there's, like, a soul code to everything, and therefore it's like recreating everything there, which is what I could imagine could be an explanation for the Eternal City thing there. Again, I call it Eternal City, even though I don't know if the term was even exist back then, right? Like, yeah, I'm very much excited to see what we're gonna get. I'll post the link in the spoiler said. Yeah, cool. I'm sure other people would enjoy seeing that comparison too. And make sure, spoilers channel, I'm probably gonna, unlike what we did with Elden Ring, I think we're gonna have spoilers channel probably extend for another day or two. Probably just give, like, make sure, like, everyone has a chance to, like, you know, own the game and, like, have it on their own thing, right? Because I don't know how the staggered launch is going to be handled, right? And then afterwards, we're going to let it be merged into Elden Ring, and it's going to be free for all like we did last time. I think I want to give people slightly more room, though. Because it'd be hard to figure out. It's like, okay, well, you have the game, but you don't have the game, right? Especially if it's like people are actually starting to get the game, like, today or whatever. Yeah, I'm looking... honestly, I think what's got me most excited for Night Rain is seeing the old bosses with new moves and what new moves are given to bosses. Like, you got, like, the... What do we call him? The Grafted Monarch, right? Like, whether that's Godric or Godofroy, I think it's very noticeable the fact that he has the weird, like, Crucible tail thing he's gonna do during his boss fight. I think the same thing for, like, what we see with the Draconic Tree Sentinel and doing the whole, Placky, storm, you know, transformation thing. I'm looking forward to seeing what other bosses might do.
You there. Could you...
I guess I'm also, like, just morbidly curious how much they're gonna actually try to justify integrating Dark Souls bosses into the game, or if they're just not gonna comment on it. It's just gonna be like, it's a thing. Pretend it doesn't exist. Draconic Tree Sentinel was really cool. I'm glad to hear that. I assume, because I remember seeing, like, Demi-Human Queen was a boss, and they just, like, added ads, and they're like, yeah, this is a boss fight. Did she have new moves, or... Like, are they gonna do stuff where, like, you fight a Miranda, and it's like a Miranda with, like, I don't know, a bunch of perfumers? Like, I don't know to what extent the variety of bosses is gonna look like. And how much they're gonna add new moves to those kinds of bosses, right? Versus some of the bigger, more, you know, major ones. Well, there's also the giant fortress, I recall, right? Like, there's a giant fortress thing that you can also get in Night Rain, right? I don't recall any of those existing in the lands between, so maybe it is going to be something where it's like, oh no, the peoples of these lands in Limveld, through time and space and all that stuff, they're trying to still create some semblance of order or restore the lands or whatever, so they build these forts. I wonder if they're going to make it where, like, all these civilizations are still actually, like, trying to be functional, despite, you know, whatever weird stuff is going on. They're describing it now as, like, an alternate timeline, so I think this pretty much confirms that, like, when they're talking about, like, a separate universe, they literally mean, like, alternate universe AU type scenario. Like, it's gonna be completely... They're gonna completely disconnect it from the main narrative after a certain point. So it's not gonna step on anyone's toes or anything. It's truly, like, a what-if. Or maybe they're gonna justify it, be like, oh no, and now you're going to, like, restore the timeline or some shit. So these events never actually happened, but they did happen. But then you negated them from happening. Or something like that. Demi-Human Queen is a Demi-Human Swordsman, and she has that purple eye mechanic where all Demi-Humans nearby get buff when she throws the staff. Oh, lovely. Lovely stuff. We don't see any Divine Towers, like, proper in the trailers or anything, right? We just see, like, kind of like a copycat thing they're doing. Like, they're using, like, the stone portion of those towers for a new asset or something like that. Why is from Software use the same 5 themes in their games, but just mix them up a little? Are you referring to the Bloodbornification of the OST? Because, yes, I've complained about that as well. I would say it's the same 5 themes. Like Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Demon Souls, those had very distinct OSTs for all their bosses and stuff like that. Like, very memorable stuff. I think the problem is that after Bloodborne, which also has a mostly memorable OST as well, like, some of them more memorable than others. Some of them kind of blend together in my brain. But when it comes to... how do I put this? You know, after Bloodborne's, you know, success with its, like, you know, and everyone loving the OST for that, I get the feeling that they've just leaned too hard into making all their soundtracks have the same kind of, like, general motif of being, like, you know, choirs, all the typical things with the strings and the brasses and the winds and all that stuff. And then eventually you get to Phase 2 and they just had a heavy, loud choir and, you know, again, as a person who loves classical music more than anything, it's like, it's too much, man. Too much of a good thing. It's why I think my favorite boss theme in Elden Ring is probably Ancestral Spirit King, because it's just so... Not only is it a good track, it's so different from the rest of the Elden Ring tracks. I think it means narrative themes. Oh, I see. I was thinking about, like, music themes. Okay, yeah. If it's narrative themes, then... I don't know, because Miyazaki just really likes going back to those core ideas, and, like, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess. I mean, I can't really complain. There's one in the Golden Tree at the last night, and you enter it. Oh, I see. I wonder how much that's going to tie into the lore, then. If it's actually going to be an actual tree, or if it's going to be something separate. Yeah, okay. You also like Shadow Tree Avatar and Bales? Yeah, there's definitely specific... Well, I don't remember Bales OST anymore, so I have to go back and listen to it to see if I really like it. But, yeah, I do like Shadow Tree Avatar. That one's also, though, very different, right? It definitely... You can kind of feel like they lean... It also... I'll be honest, I really love Violin. Like, Violin's probably my favorite, so, like... The fact that it leans a little more heavily for that song, like, that definitely does it for me a lot more, but, like... Overall, I just think that song really kind of stands out because of how much it, like, really kind of leans in there. It almost reminds me of a Bloodborne track in the way it uses its string instruments there. Yeah, that's what I meant. Okay, good to know. Thanks for clarifying, Sub. Midra. I think Midra's is okay. I would say it's, like, my favorite, right? It's got it's got a lot of stuff. Again, it does the same thing. It leans really into the strings and stuff like that, and I like how it does a callback to the actual, like, you know, Frenzied Flame song that we hear that ironically also uses a string instrument, right? So I definitely do like that one, but I think I like Shadow Tree Avatars more, for sure, just as a musical piece. I also don't remember second phase of Midra's theme. So it might be that I'm not gonna like that one as much. It's red. The sky is red. I like how the sun disappears and then reappears. It's kind of piratey. Oh, I just love. I love this sky. The skybox is my favorite. Just going from like normal green to orange to red. Oh. And the moon just is like, no more. No moon. Also not seeing the sun. Yeah, I guess they just don't show the bodies. There's just red, endless red sky. Now, for narrative themes, though, again, I feel like from Software, especially Miyazaki and stuff, like, you know, there's a lot to explore in the themes that they cover, and the way that they can recycle them and make them like very, you know, different universes, right? In terms of like the specifics of the cosmology and mechanics and how like things bloom from there. I feel like, you know, like, why change that? It works so well. I've never gotten bored when it comes to a new completely unique From Software fantasy world, right? I'm not too crazy when it comes to like Armored Core worlds and stuff like that, right? Like, I'm not like, you know, oh man, I love to learn about the history and lore of Armored Core. No, I just want to get into a mech and smash things, right? I can't say that I'm too crazy about like Sekiro because it's kind of like a historical fiction almost type of thing, right? Like, it's kind of like more like historical fantasy, I should say, right? You know, because it's set in, like, actual Japan, and it's drawing upon real history and stuff, which is cool and all, but, like, you know, it's not, like, a major winner for me on that front. Like, I'm not necessarily interested in, like, a story that's like, ah, yes, we're gonna be, like, in the world of, like, you know, France during Charlemagne, right? But it's gonna be, like, some weird random village or whatever, and everything takes place in that poor, principality or something. Where's my Pirate Souls game from, Soft? I would not be opposed to that. I've also said I'd love a Conquistador, like, with Aztec and Mayan, inspired, setting. I would love something like that. You can, like, I think you can come up with something real cool with that imagery. Yeah, I don't think they're going to be revisiting, medieval, you know, European fantasy settings for a little bit. I think they're going to cool it on that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're, like, really, really wanting to tell more in that area. But I feel like they've done it so much. I think it would be cooler to see them do other stuff. Not that I'd be opposed to it, but I definitely think that From Software themselves, I think that's why they're doing Duskbloods. I think because they want to do something a little different. You know, not quite Bloodborne, not quite Elden Ring, you know, kind of something a little bit separate with a bit of a steampunk vibe. I do love the consistency of the themes they cover. Makes their games have unique and consistent style. That consistency is something I never really find with other devs. I've seen it with other devs for sure, across their works. I should actually say specifically other authors and, like, writers, right? Like, typically with them, like, they'll have a lot of, like, key narrative themes they like to return to or explore in different ways or get creative with. I've noticed that, oh, right, you know. Alright, we're getting out of here. We're getting out of here before I have to hear these guys moan any longer. So I have seen that before. Like, I've noticed that a lot playing Honkai Star Rail and stuff. And, like, looking into, like, you know, just kind of casually, like, ingesting some of the lore for some of their past games or their other games that they've done. I definitely am noticing, like, a repeated pattern a lot of how they like to handle things. So they're a bit of a narrative, recycler, as it were. But, as far as like, you know, From Software is concerned, I think what they benefit from is that they're able to have core ideas that are fairly universal, and then they can start always thinking about how, like, they just need to make a little twist. like, okay, what about this that we haven't really thought about or explored yet? Or what about that? Like, for example, when you go to Demon Souls to Dark Souls, there's a huge meta-narrative significance on the fact that, you know, in Demon Souls, like, the soul was just the source of thought, right? And therefore, it was justified that even though the soul-starved were, well, starved of souls, they could still operate because their biological bodies were still totally functional, right? But in Dark Souls, the soul is not just the source of thought. They do the twist and say, no, it's actually the source of life itself, right? So it has everything, like it's all part of the package deal, which then invites the question, okay, then why are the souls starved in Dark Souls still operational without their souls, right? Like, don't they need souls in order to be able to function or whatever? So what's going on there, right? And then that kind of leads into the whole question about, you know, the big, deep conspiracy, quote unquote, about humanity and, like, you know, the truth about the human soul and all that jazz, right? So, stuff like that is really cool from, like, a meta-narrative perspective. But it goes to show, like, Miyazaki taking something that he's already worked on, his idea, and he just kind of, like, explores and be like, okay, yeah, but traditionally, like, souls isn't just the source of thought, though. What if we now explore from the totality of it being, like, you know, the source of life? And what about humans, then? What makes humans, like, special in the humans? Like, you know, kind of asking about, like, what defines humans and humanity and all that stuff, like, and the angle he takes it there and is able to explore many of the same ideas, but just from a different perspective. I think that's what is the key when you want to recycle stuff like that. Now, recycle assets, as Night Rain's going to show. I get the feeling that the recycling of the assets is going to grind a lot of people's gears, right? Do you recommend other game devs that are similar that aren't gacha? I could probably compile a list, yeah. And then, like, send it to you if you want. I could probably do that over the weekend, yeah. Some of them are, yeah, some of them are gonna, yes, actually, some of them are gonna be manga and stuff, and, like, light novels and stuff like that, so maybe not, like, that big of a list, then, maybe. Yeah, because I have to do it on specifically devs, right? There's a few Japanese devs I could definitely think of, like, what's his face? Not Satoshi, Uchikoshi. Yeah, Uchikoshi would be a good one. So yeah, I could probably compile at least, like, a list of, like, 3 or 4 that you might be able to try out some of their games and stuff. Oh, there goes that. Gosh. The Fallen Leaves tell a story, chat. Are you ready for the new story they have to tell? About nighttime? And lots of rain? You know, the fact that it's called Night Rain, honestly, I'm surprised I didn't make the, oh, so it's Liurnia joke. I feel like I kind of missed out on that one. Gosh, man. It's gonna be crazy. Because Night Rain is gonna... Night Rain's at the very least, I think, could inspire me to come out with a few more posts on Elden Ring, right? And with Dark Souls 2, like, you know, wrapping up or already wrapped up for the website and stuff like that, and, like, almost wrapped up in, like, totality for me. It's gonna be crazy going, finally being able to move on and be like, okay, now I only have Elden Ring, Bloodborne, and Dark Souls 3. And Dark Souls 3 is so close to being done. I'm hopeful I'll be able to come out with both Londor and Ariandel before the end of the year. And then say, like, yeah, I'm totally done with Dark Souls 3 now. Kojima? I do not, follow Kojima, as closely. Though I would not be surprised from the games that I am familiar with of his. But, like, I'm not, like, a huge Kojima fan. I think in some respects he's overrated. So I, like, can't speak to him personally. What's his face? Oh, that's a real good one. Yeah, I know, crazy. Crazy, you know? There's also Whoozits. We also cannot forget good old What's It, his little brother. I think he's a jealous guy. I think he's always been jealous of good old Whoozit's success, you know? Tries to copycat him every step of the way. The air tree burns. So, like, wait, if this is gonna be, like, alternate timeline, right? Like, so the shattering has to happen, right? Because you have Margit and stuff like that, like, existing. So, clearly, like, the shattering happens and stuff. So, like, how far do events go before, like, why the hell is my... Hello? Are we stuck here? Like, how far is this actually gonna go, I wonder? Hello? Oh, God. Yeah, I'm doing this. Yeah, okay, I've officially decided it's gonna be on PS5, Jeff, because I cannot for the life of me take this. Yeah, this is insufferable with worrying about having this controller stuff. I'm not dealing with that in the middle of an online lobby when like a boss fight could make or break our run. Their uncle whatchamacallit! Let's not forget, good old just some guy. Yeah, he's like that guy. Yeah, I love that guy. Because that was some amazing works. Lore for all the playable characters seems to all be outsiders to Lands Between. The game seems to be expanding on cultures, people outside there. I think that's a good idea, just because I think that it's so underdeveloped outside the Lands Between that that's probably a good way to do it without stepping on potentially any toes. Again, I don't know how much the new director actually knows about what's going on with the wider lore and stuff. Like, if like he need to get like briefed on Miyazaki, if he had to have a look at the lore docs or whatever. Like, I don't know. I would not be surprised if like he just got a basic primer on how to justify everything with the whole Night Lord shtick. And then everything else is going to be like, okay, just try to avoid potentially retconning things as much as you can. So yeah, I just don't know. I don't know what everything's gonna look like at the end of this little journey we're having here. It's gonna be probably. I mean, I expect the game's gonna at the very least have 2 good weeks, right? I think that's fair to say. I guess the question is gonna be then if it'll have any legs after that. Because then that's gonna be like, okay, is it gonna be like, is there gonna be enough people who will love it enough to stick with it, or is it gonna be this game that like so many people are like, ugh, that they want nothing to do with it, and it's just gonna like, you know, die like very quickly, never really getting off the ground. It got good on the pre-order, so I think at least a lot of people are gonna try it day one. So that's gonna be cool. Oh my. I love how I went through all that of Lascar Ruins and only now it shows up, right? Our favorite flower patch. In an interview, you talked about how the lore and setting influenced a lot of the game design. Well, but that might go to what I'm saying about, like, maybe he just got a basic primer for, like, the framework of, okay, how are we going to justify the type of game that you wanna do, right? And then, you know, from there, like, he may not have been given too much to, like, he was told, okay, just don't go into too many details about specifics on, like, you know, beyond, like, okay, like, who's the final boss, the basic framework of how this all gonna work, right? So again, I'm curious. I would love it if it's like, no, there's actually like a lot of in-depth thought and work put into, like, you know, the characters, the story, the item descriptions for like even returning items and things like that. Like, we're gonna get like a lot of stuff to chew on that if you were a fan of, like, you know, Elden Ring's lore, you're gonna be like super happy because it's gonna add and confirm and build upon a lot of things, or, you know. I'm really hopeful. I'm really hopeful that, like, they really allowed him to be like, okay, here's a look, here's all the stuff, here's all the things you can do, and, like, you know, from there, like, go crazy. I would give up so much for the mythical lore Bible. Here's the thing, Miyazaki would too, it feels like. Like, that's how he's always talked about it in interviews and stuff. So I would not be surprised. I don't know if it has to be, like, Martin has to, like, pass away or something or whatever, you know? Like, I don't know. But, like, I would not be surprised if somewhere down the line, Miyazaki does, like, release it, like some sort of, like, commemoration of, like, you know, Martin's work, or as a thank you, or like again, I don't know if there's any legal agreements that could be actually restricting them from, like, you know, actually doing it or whatever, right? I get the feeling that one day Martin's prose will be made public. I just can't imagine Miyazaki and From Software taking it to their graves. It would seem just so bizarre to me if they would, like, never give up the goose. But hey, who knows? Maybe even when, like, Martin, Miyazaki, you know, everybody, you know, they all, you know, go off to their next life, it's all gonna be, you know, kept under lock and key and then, like, burned in a pyre or something. I hope not, but Who knows? It'll never see the light of day. It'll be either way, the fact that we're getting an Elden Ring movie and Night Rain, and most likely more, I doubt it. I mean, if it's two things, you have to have a third, right? And if you have a third, you may as well have 20. So, I get the feeling we're going to be getting lots of Elden Ring lore into the future. Even if we hate the titles that are coming out, we're like, oh my god, this stuff is slop! Right? I think at the very least, the lore is going to be good. Even if, like, you know, maybe the actual stories are crap or something, right? Like, again, you'd say a lot of things about DS2, but at the very least, it has some interesting lore when you, like, separate it from its, like, dogshit narrative. Like, its dogshit main story. I have no hopes that the lore will be useful. I at least have some hopes. I'm not expecting too much, so I'm willing to be pleasantly surprised by having more. But I'm hopeful that we are going to actually get some good stuff in there. At least, like, a few good tidbits. Yeah. It's a beautiful world, chat. A beautiful, beautiful world. There we go. Something nice there. It would be very much a, shame. Be very much a shame to let Elden Ring, you know, not have more of its story told, assuming that there is more to tell. And from what I can tell from, like, what everyone talks about it, in terms of the devs, it seems like there is a lot of stuff that might not necessarily have been covered in the games that do exist there, and so leaves more narrative potential. Like, obviously, the Night Lords had to have, probably. The stuff about the Night Lords and all that was probably in there, and was probably all this stuff. Who knows, maybe some of these bosses, might be specifically mentioned. The trailer had, like, a cool dragon guy and stuff like that, so... That'll at least be neat, having, what was it, like a ice dragon or whatever? Alright. I think we wrap things up here. Do you think there's actual answers to everything and they just cut it out, or do they also don't know and just make it up later with some loose strings? I always take the chair. I'm always charitable in saying that I think that I take the position of whatever From Software does is probably something that they that if there's, like, answers or stories or implications or whatever, that it is indeed intentional by From Software and was, like, you know, always part of the plan unless proven otherwise, right? Like, for example, there's a lot of stuff in Dark Souls 3 that you could definitely make very good arguments to say, like, you know, okay, yeah, like, they like, you know, again, depends on what you define as a retcon or something, right? But, like, you know, they definitely were like, okay, they added this wasn't part of the original plan, you know, like, stuff like, you know, they wanted to, like, include stuff, this is them expanding or adding lore they came up with later, right? Like, you definitely say stuff like that. But generally speaking, I find that there are games and their worlds and their lores and the answers, even if they don't expressly say it until a later game, it tends to be pretty clear in the earlier games that, yeah, they were very much intentional of this being the answer, right? And the later games are just kind of like, you know, make it explicit because, well, what else is the game having to offer to expand the narrative if it isn't, like, you know, adding to eventually, you know, directly answer those questions, right? But in terms of Elden Ring specifically, I have not seen anything to make me go like, oh no, they totally changed this on the fly, or like they had a completely different idea for this and they moved it, right? Like, I can't tell you, for example, if any of the lore for, like, say, I don't know, okay, let's say Rolana, right? Like, Rolana, how much of her lore with, like, Mesmer and the romance thing, how much of that was actually, you know, all, like, part of the original, like, Martin text or whatever, or how much of it was, like, never really spoken of explicitly, or maybe it was only mentioned, alluded to in vague terms by Martin, and Miyazaki just kind of ran with that and decided for his DLC, okay, I want to answer this question about the missing sister of Renala, and Rena. So let's have this R'hllana character be added for the DLC, and the reason she's gone is because she, like Renala, has a thing for guys with red hair, right? Like, you could definitely make that argument. I just don't see any reason necessarily to believe that over the alternative. Nah, that was always there, right? Like, I just don't see anything where it'd be like, no, this makes a bunch of stuff not really work, or make sense, or really, like, it's really hard as an outsider to make that kind of determination. So I'm always going to be charitable with FromSoft there and be like, okay, yeah, sure, maybe it was always part of the plan. All the extra materials are just spin-offs, so there's no choice to there's a choice to ignore aspects we don't like, but the fundamentals, cosmology, and basic premise do need to be the same. Yeah, that would be ideally what we have. So even if some of the stuff is, like, not, like, written very well, at the very least, it's consistent enough with the story or whatever, so, like, you can ignore, like, I'll be like, nah, that story and characters were shit, but, like, some of the lore aspects they're talking about, or the themes and ideas they touch upon, are still good. Miquella and Radahn was definitely intended since release of the base game, unfortunately. Yeah, like, that's another good one. Like, a lot of people are like, oh my god, this, and like, God wins. And I've always said, like, lore, again, believe me, I agree with you. Anything you say about Miquella and Radahn is better than what we got for Miquella and Radahn as the final boss, right? The thing is though, I'm not gonna say like it's like them like throwing it out of left field. Like, I'm totally willing to believe with all the stuff that they were setting up in base game Elden Ring that the answer was Miquella has a thing for his stepbro and wants him to be like his new Elden Lord to his godhood, right? Like, I'm totally willing to buy all that. That's all consistent with the base game stuff. I'm not surprised. Now, do I like the story they went with in order to convey all that lore? No. I feel like they may as well have just revealed that in the actual base game, made it like a weird, silly, like copy-paste side boss or whatever, right? With Radahn or something, and like Miquella could be like copy-pasted to like his shoulder or something, and like, I don't know, make Messmer the big bad, and like make the big focus with him there. I find what we got so ugh. But I'm willing to believe that it totally was always intentional. They say it's fan service for more Radahn. Yeah, I don't agree with that. Though I will say this, I think that Miyazaki definitely from what I've seen of what Miyazaki talks about Radahn and stuff like that, I feel like Miyazaki has a weird hard-on for the quote-unquote like heroic characters of the demigods, right? Which I personally don't get. Because I always felt like you already had that with a lot of your Dark Souls bosses and stuff. And yeah, you see like corrupted aftermath of stuff, but you kind of see that with Radahn too. So like that's not really changed, and like Godrick's like not overly crazy, and like, you know, Godfrey's kind of like, I guess Godfrey's kind of like he returns to form, but then you like see him at his lowest when he returns to like Hoarah and things like, I don't know. I feel like what we get with like the demigods isn't that far removed from what we get from Dark Souls outside of tone, because Elden Ring definitely strikes a different tone compared to Dark Souls or Demon Souls or Bloodborne, right? Anyway, as I said, I think we're gonna wrap things up here because we've talked a lot about the stuff. I got to show off a little bit of the astrologist thing with this wonderful little piece of artwork I did here, right? You got the world here, you got the stars over here, and the moon, you got the sun over here in this corner, you got the lower world, you got the first flame. I should have added this to the astrologist page. Obviously, this piece was the perfect reference image to show to all of you. Should have included it in the article. But yeah, so I'm very happy. Dark Souls 2 is behind me. Night Rain is ahead of me. We'll see if we can get the Dark Souls lore play also behind me tomorrow. We'll see. We'll see. Because we got Manus, we got Calamite, and we got Gwyn. That's a lot of bosses for me to do in one 5-hour, or I would ideally love it to be like in 4 hours, 4-hour stream. So I guess we will see. It's consistent with the noble corpses that Mogwyn in the full art for Battle of Aeonia has a weird butterfly and Melania whispering into his ear. Well, again, I think that generally, again, there's multiple ways to take the Melania stuff, right? Like, obviously, I had a different interpretation trying to figure out what she was trying to say there. But yeah, I could totally buy it, right? Like that, that was always the idea of Melania like asking for the consort or something. Now, could it be that they just kind of came up with it to be like, we had Melania say stuff, and maybe we had a different idea for it originally, but we're gonna have her say this now. Sure, it could be. But again, I don't see any reason to doubt that based on what we're given. I think everything else is just so consistent. It's like it's even if that was the case, like, it's fine. The world is a flat circle, Epic. Yep. Sorry to say to you, tell you, but the Dark Souls world is flat. I know, it's a terrible revelation, but, you know, sometimes the flat earthers just have it. Take care. Yeah, see you, Sub-Zero. See you guys. Again, love y'all. Night Rain's gonna go ahead. I'm probably gonna get the PS5 version now. I was really gonna get PC, but, you know, as we said, I feel like this controller problems, it's gonna be too much of an issue for a multiplayer thing. Anyway, I'll see you guys all later. Bye-bye.